Hello, this is Frank Favaro, president and founder of Serve Centric Coaching, and I'm super excited to be sponsoring the Undeniable podcast. When we talk about business today, everyone's looking to create an advantage. But how do you find it? Everything is copied with technology. Innovation is hard to come by. We can find it with customer experience. The experience that you provide to your customers and to your employees determines the value you bring to the marketplace. We will create a plan for you that will get your business to the next level. You can find us at www.serve-centric.com. That's Serve Centric. Serve, S-E-R-V-E -centric, C-E-N-T-R-I-C.com. And you can reach me personally at 330-715-5361. Thank you.
The Air Force Academy, loud and proud. Loud and proud. That's great.
We're obviously proud to represent our Air Force Academy and our armed forces.
Absolutely. Well, I'm proud to be talking to you. And, this is blood time, right? So you guys, blood, sweat, and tears, right? Blood, sweat, and tears, whether it's on the mat or on the battlefield, right?
In everything we do, really, I think, the guys really show up and they pursue excellence on and off the mat. And that's in this 4-year transformational period of the Air Force Academy, where they're getting a world-class education and they're learning in this leadership laboratory, like testing things out and what's going to work and what's not going to work for them as future leaders in our Air Force and Space Force. And then obviously on the mat, right, the transformational experience of athletics, where you get immediate feedback. If you're doing something, you're training for an event and you go out and you compete, you get your hand raised or you don't get your hand raised, and you get to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, what things can I do better? And what things am I doing well that I got to continue to grow in? Yeah,
it's interesting. I was interviewed on a podcast, a business podcast recently, and the guy asked me at the very end, he goes, for entrepreneurs starting out, give them one word of advice. I said, if you think you've seen it all, you haven't, and you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that transfers right to the mat. I mean, if you're getting taken down, like Wade Chalice figured it out, right? He created the spladle.
Yeah.
Obviously he was not a bad takedown artist, but you got to figure that out. You got to figure your position. You got to figure your training. You got to figure what you're eating, your shape, all that good stuff. If you're not getting good sleep, right? So tell me a little bit about how that holistic viewpoint goes into the wrestling room for your program, Sam.
Well, I think for us, we're just a cog in the wheel here at the Air Force Academy, right? So there's 3 main mission elements, and it's academics and leadership and athletics, and we all have one common goal of producing future officers for our Air Force or Space Force. So with that, you have to be looking holistically, like the whole 24-hour day, 7-day week, 365-day year for our cadet athletes, and we have to build out a training plan that's smart, that allows them to be successful in all 3 of those areas, right? So that's the main thing, is that we've really, instead of trying to do something outside of the machine, I say the machine is 22 hours a day. The machine is cranking out second lieutenants in leadership and academics, 2 to 3 hours. We get a chance to work with those guys athletically. So, for us, just making sure that we're smart about that, and rest and sleep are a big part of that. And I think that as I've matured as a coach, I've really taken a harder look at that. What's it like to make sure that these guys they're rested, they're recovered, that they're getting enough sleep, that they can perform at their best athletically. And then the other thing is, again, our goal is to support their goals, support their goals. And they have goals outside of wrestling. Some of them want to be fighter pilots, some of them want to be doctors, some of them want to be special tactics officers. Some of them want to go to grad school. So some of them want to be civil engineers. So my job is to support them and, getting them internships, or making sure they're getting flight hours, and making sure they have time in their day to study for the MCAT. So, for us, we really strive to be a great teammate here at the Air Force Academy, be a cog in the wheel that, meets the mission. We talk about being a mission-first program and a value-based organization. And, those values are kind of rooted in, relationship, retention, and development.
No question about it. And you got a great foundation, obviously, right, with what they're doing outside the wrestling room, which obviously is different than a college or university. And you came from that world too. So there's been a transformation for you. And I think you see a transformation in the program with a guy like Wyatt Henderson doing what he's done. And then kind of being the lead dog in the pack and say, oh, if I just do 90% of what Wyatt's doing, man, I could maybe be an AA or something like that. Or if I do 110%, or whatever, there's no such thing as 110%, but if I do 100%, and that's the story of Lee Kemp. Lee Kemp went to a camp with Dan Gable. He says, I'm going to do everything Dan did, right?
Right.
And he transformed himself. So with that lead dog, and then, you constantly re-emphasizing that, tell me how that program has evolved with that type of situation occurring.
Well, I think we've been striving to be a value-based organization for a long time, and it goes back to Coach Bachman and Coach Sherritt. And, I'm just, the guy sitting in the chair today that's been able to continue that. But
do no harm, right?
Yeah.
You've done more than that, but you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, we got a good foundation. Let's just build on it.
Yeah, we just got to, and I think we talked about, we talked about before is like, we've been doing the right things. Maybe we just haven't been doing them long enough. So I think with those two lines intersect, like, hey, we've been doing the right things for a long time, and now maybe it's finally where those lines intersect, where we've doing the right things long enough, and then you finally get over that hump and produce those results. And it helps to have a talented athlete. Wyatt Hendrickson, I mean, he was athletically gifted, but he's still grown a ton in our program, and he's only one of the 39 guys in our team doing the right things every day. We got some outstanding leadership on our team. I met Wyatt in his senior class is like, it's the model for what it should look like in senior class. We got 7 amazing seniors right now that should every day. Their story's not written yet. Like, we're still got another year here, but when we get done with this class and we kind of like close that chapter, and can look back and say, hey, well, what was the difference? What was unique about these 7 guys? There's going to be a lot that we can take away from that. So I think, that part of it is just sticking to your guns a little bit. And hey, like, we're not going to leave our values. We're not going to move away from being, a values-based organization that's mission first. And we never, it took time, right? It took a little bit of time to the hump, but there's no shortcuts in that. And hopefully here, what we hope to find out is that since we didn't take the shortcuts, since we did the hard work and we put the time in, is that we got, we can, reload more than rebuild,
I love that. I love that. And the other thing too that, COVID taught us is really, really paying attention deeply to mental health.
Yeah.
Mental well-being. Tell me a little bit about that mentality that you now have that you may not have had in 2019. Maybe you did, but I think everybody was much more revealed and much more made aware of that situation.
Yeah, I think, again, just this, for me, the relationship piece of it, and it takes a lot of work, but you got to have strong relationships with your team, and you got to interact with them, and you got to know, like, if you're not talking to a guy on a day-to-day basis, that you don't see the shifts in his physical and mental, right? So you got to be able that kind of that base relationship, so you can be able to say, hey, well, like, I walked in the room and athlete X, he's just not acting the same way today, so. And you check in like, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay? And I think, but if you don't have that, if you're not doing that, then it's going to be really, really hard. I mean, there's some other things we have in place. We have a great thing called a team council, where we got representation across the entire program from the different class groups. And, those guys are supposed to be, leading up and down the chain, checking in with their classmates and checking back in with the senior, the upperclassmen on the team, and also, and then we meet as coaches with those guys as well too. So just a lot of touch points to make sure that we just don't ever have anybody that's ever isolated and alone and going through difficult times. Yeah, so I think with that, it's really tough to. We just don't let anybody in our program become isolated.
That's awesome. Yeah,
but then checking in on them, sure they know where they're at, and then if something doesn't seem right about them. We're not finding that out too late, I guess.
Yeah. And I did that a lot with my assistant coaches. I empowered them to be, that person to go and be the first line of question, if you will. Hey, what can I, blah, blah, blah. And then we bring them in, and then we talk to them, and I'd have maybe a senior captain come in too. So it's more like a community situation. And at the high school level, we don't have obviously the resources that you do, at D1 or an academy, but that form of community, I think, really worked.
Yeah.
And we cut a lot of things off at the pass, if you will. You know, and I think that's really what the wrestling room truly is about, is the community that you build, the fraternity, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
No doubt. It takes a lot of time and effort. You got to be intentional about it. And you have to fight societal norms a little bit.
I do. Yep.
If you're going to have relationships, if you're going to check in people, if you're going to give those people the time, the conversation, you know, like it's going to make you, it's going to put you behind on email, right? You're not going to be able to catch up on some of the things you want to get done in the office because you got to take the time to like sit down, you know, put everything aside, look them in the eye and have a real conversation with them. And you can't just, it can't be surface level and just trying to get through it till you can get to, get back to your computer and get your stuff done. So for me, as my role in the program, that's been a little bit of a challenge to balance, but something we're figuring out.
Well, again, that's, those lessons are really, they're not on deaf ears, because that human connection, that human touch, that human care and empathy will reverberate with that individual that you're doing that for, doing that with, because then they'll be in leadership positions and they'll remember, hey, coach took the time for that. Right.
Yeah.
And so when he's in a leadership position, he may take a pause and say, you know what? Okay, let's just talk this out.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's more fun, right?
Yeah.
Our room is more fun. I mean, it's hard work. It's intense work, but let's have some fun with this sport too, right?
I think it's one of the joys of this too is again, like it's obviously about the results, but we've been doing this a long time. And I tell people like, I'm going into, I think, my 28th season. And if I get, whatever that looks like when I'm done with this, if I walk away from it after, that many years, whatever it is, and I can't look back on it and have something to take away, for me, like, it comes down to the relationships. If I don't have the relationships that I can take away from this, that are lifelong, and I can continue to have those for for my years after coaching, then it's like, was it really worth it? Like, was it really time well spent? Like, did I really give up 30 plus years of my life to do something and to look back and just, walk past a couple of trophies and feel like I accomplished something? I think for me, it's, trying to, the collection of relationships and friendships that come out of it, and then the connections. I just had an athlete here in town a couple days ago that, I coached back at Upper Iowa, and 20 years ago. And, just an incredible relationship, and so grateful to have that. And many others like it. So I think that part of it, you got to put the time into that. And that's what this is supposed to be about.
That's the true treasures. And I want to get more into that after the break, but we got to take a little break real quickly, pay homage to the people that keep us on the air here. So we'll be right back with Sam Barber, head wrestling coach at the Air Force Academy. This is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time.
Infinite Search Solutions, recruitment and placement search services at its finest. Northeast Ohio's premier, easy, fast, and simple way to find the great and perfect candidate that you deserve. Matt Burns and his incredible team at Infinite Search Solutions are terrific. We are proud to have them as a sponsor. Reach out to Matt at 440-249-0485 or at their website, www.in-finite.com.
And we're back with Sam Barber, the head coach at the Air Force Academy. Sam, great stuff in the first segment, dropping gems about human connection. And you talked about the guy from Upper Iowa. Tell me a little bit about some of the people that were your building blocks. Who impressed you? Who inspired you? And what did they say, or what did they do that made you want to be the coach you are today?
I think, again, my pathway is really unique. It's I'm the only active Division I head coach in the country that's not from a Division I background, right? And my competition credentials, they're just not there. To think I was just really, really lucky to land in a couple great spots and then get introduced to these amazing people. I had some great people in my life as a young high schooler. growing up. I had a family that surrounded me and a good high school, good mentor. But when I got to college, I met a guy, Treaty. He was my head coach in college at Upper Iowa. The 13-time national champion for the University of Northern Iowa, 2-sport All-American. He was also an All-American in track, and I think
wow,
that's
pretty crazy.
The last American to beat Bruce Baumgartner. Like he's one of the unsung heroes in our sport. But as good as an athlete was, he was just a better role model, a mentor, and a man. But he was amazing, and he passed away unfortunately. When I was coaching with him in 1999. So I didn't, I always wondered what my life would look like if I still had coach to mentor me through my coaching.
Sure.
But the other thing that was unique for me was my sophomore year in college, Jay Robinson showed up on campus at Upper Iowa with the Jay Robinson intensive camps. And I begged Jay every day for an opportunity to go with him and work the next camp in Edinburgh. And then after that, Minnesota. And after that, the West Coast camp. And I ended up working for Jay for over 20 years.
Wow.
And in that, obviously Jay Robinson's the key figure in that. The things I learned from Jay, again, as a man, role model, as a coach, as a mentor, there's just too many to share with you here. But it also opened up this another amazing network of people, Joe Russell and Mark Schwab and his whole coaching staff and all their athletes that went on to be, they're great coaches now and good people. So I just got exposed to these amazing.
Weren't you exposed to the Peterson brothers too?
I was, yeah. Coach, he was athletes in action athlete. So with betting, and he was close with them too. And I ended up getting connected to John through Ben. But John ran Bible studies at Augsburg College when I was there coaching, and became a mentor to me as well. And still here, and then another connection. His son Josh ended up being, an alumni of the Air Force Academy. So this web is just crazy. And then that brings you to Colorado Springs, and now you get exposed to the Olympic Training Center.
Yep.
The USOPC, and all the great people there. When I first moved to Colorado, I actually worked at USA Wrestling. So I got
excuse me,
some of the legends of our sport there, and some just great people. And Colorado Springs being the great wrestling town it is, you get to interact with Bill Zadek and Terry Steiner and Matt Lindland when he lived here, and Joe.
That.
So for me, the list of mentors and role models and people that have impacted my life by just, it's like you kind of said, like dropping nuggets or giving me gems.
Yeah.
One of the things I tell my daughter every day I got from Matt Lindland was, be bold and take action, and
he has. He's conquered a lot of different areas of life.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. I can't, it's just amazing. Like you couldn't, it's a blessing. It's good fortune. It was, being at the right place at the right time. You couldn't script it. The people have got to be around.
That's awesome. So what are we looking at for 23-24 for the Air Force Academy?
Well, we came off their most successful season ever last year, 18th in the country, tied with Oklahoma State, most points ever scored.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Bravo. Yeah.
All-American again in 20 years. A guy on a world team. 7 guys commissioned into the Air Force and Space Force doing great things. So academically, our highest ever amount of academic All-Americans as well. So just every metric you can imagine, fundraising, we blew the top off it. So what do you do and where do you go after you have a season like that, right?
Yeah.
The evaluation after the season, what I came down to is like, well, we're going to double down on the things that got us here. The basics. We're going to get brilliant at the basics, and we're going to recommit to our values, and we're going to stay true to who we are. So with that, I think some of the success we've had has attracted some great people. So we got a couple new staff members on our program. We just added Dan Erickson, a 2-time All-American from Iowa, to our program. He helped us a little bit last year.
Okay.
We retained our entire staff, and so for us, we're just going to double down on what got us here in the first place, and continue to develop and build relationships and retain staff members and athletes in our program. And as they say, focus on the things we can control. I can't control the outcome of the dual meets or the NCAA tournament, but we can show up every day, with a smart training plan and take care of the people in our organization and again, like double down on the things that got us here in the first place.
I love it. I love it. And we talked offline about our sport, right? And one of the things I interviewed Wade Chalice about was a point scored, a point earned, and to get it more fan friendly, to get it more fan understanding, just the average fan, whether he's a wrestler or not, or she's a wrestler or not, just to understand it and to get into it. What do you think of that point scored, point earned?
I coached the junior national team back when I was in Minnesota junior duels. So, and that's kind of how duels work, and the freestyle model, right? So you can, and I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so I'm not wrestling mind. It's hard to move me off from what we've traditionally done or what I've traditionally been exposed to. But I see.
But change is coming, though, right? Change is coming.
Yeah, change is coming, and I see value in things like that. I think anything that's going to make it more fan friendly, that's going to make it exciting. Something like that. It allows maybe a smaller school Air Force to have a little bit more competitive duel against some of the Power 5 schools we wrestle. We can be a little bit more tactical, strategic, right? So I think anything like that. When we're looking at point values and stuff, that we also got to address like the bigger issues in our sport. Like one semester. Or when we have our championship, dual meet championships, solidifying a common time so that every Friday and Sunday it's NCAA wrestling time. Aligning the sport of wrestling from youth through college. Come up with a common scoring system that every fan can follow all the way through, so that you're not trying to the sport at different levels. Right. Continue to grow the fan base and grow it. I think there's some statistics out there about the NCAA championships. It's still doing well, but it's also, we have an aging fan base. We have to do something to get, involved and tied into this and, support it. And, ultimately what we want to do is we want to add programs,
right.
But in a way that's not built on, exploiting the passion of coaches. We can't keep hiring $30,000 and telling them they got to have 60-person rosters and they got to do everything from, packing the bags for the trip to driving the bus to coaching the team. Right. It's not a sustainable model, and we're not taking care of our people. We need to have fully funded programs, institutionally funded programs, because of the value we bring to the campus, because of the nature of our sport and who we are.
No doubt, the people that we attract, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. And when I graduated college in the Stone Age in 1980, we had 202 D1 programs. Today, what do we have? 80, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So we lose generations of leaders not having any place to go.
Right.
So a lot of, obviously, and you've seen the male enrollment in universities are down and much less than female enrollment. So it's a fascinating dynamic that's occurred since I graduated college. And that's, it's a long time ago. It's 43 years ago, but still, it's really not that long ago if you think about it. And how much a quantum shift has occurred in our sport, let alone athletics on the male side, and also just male in general at the university level. So I love that you said that. And when I started Wrestlers in Business, that was my entire focus, was to create more D1, D2, and D3 programs. And that starts with keeping that youth program going and making it fun from youth and middle school. And then in high school, get them prepared, but you still got to have fun. Got to have fun.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Again, this is supposed to be a recreational activity. It's supposed to be a place of joy and of fulfillment in our lives. That's sport and transformation, where we learn these life skills that we could use in other areas later in our life. If it's a burden, if it's a task, if it's a drag on your life, it's something's not right. In that relationship with you in that sport.
And to your point, you said you had an athlete that came, from 20 years ago and hung out with you, and just, you had a great friendship there. Last 2 nights ago, I had dinner with my 20, my 21, and my 22 captain from Chagrin Falls High School. And I just come on over and let's just have pizza and salad. And we had a blast for a couple hours. It was just great. We talked, you just shot the bull, and there's the treasure, right? There's the treasure, that you take with you. That said, I love your whole philosophy. I love your program, and I just love what you guys are doing there. And if you could, we'd like to leave at the end of an episode with a word of encouragement or inspiration. And from the Air Force Academy, Sam Barber, give us a few gems, if you would.
Yeah, well, going back to talking about the people I've been exposed to, like I've been able to hire some of those people, right? So we got a great as well, and Scotty Boykin, and we talked about Dan Erickson and George Lopez and Chris Heilman, Joe Johnston. But Joe Johnston came to us from Missouri and got to us a little bit right, maybe the year before COVID. And when we went through that, he kind of instilled something in our program is like, he said, hey, like the circumstances won't be bigger than our goals or our mission. And that got us through COVID a little bit, where everybody's saying, hey, you can't wrestle, and they're putting up all these roadblocks and barriers. And, we've kind of adapted that a little bit in our program to, that's something that, we like to leave with people. Hey, like, don't allow the circumstances to be bigger than your goals and your mission. There's always going to be circumstances. There's always going to be challenges, but that you can't let anything impede your passion for pursuing your goals and executing the mission. And I think that's really important for us here, because we do have multiple things that we have to juggle and keep in the air. There's multiple demands, and I can't use academics as an excuse for my inability to achieve my wrestling goals, and vice versa. I can't use wrestling as an excuse, to not be pursuing excellence academically or right. And then when we're going to be going into, our guys are going to be going into the world's greatest military fighting force in the history of the world, right? And getting second place isn't an option.
No.
There's going to be challenges, and we have to execute and achieve the goals and the mission, the objective, because our American, way of life, our freedoms, our liberties depend on it, for the people that we decide to raise our right hand up and protect. And so with that, I think that's something I like to leave with people, is this idea of like, hey, I know everybody's got something going on. Everybody's got a challenge in their life, but we can't those circumstances to dissuade us from achieving the mission or attacking our goals.
I love that. Well, and the world depends on us too, Sam. The world depends on us, not only our country, because we are the greatest experiment, and it's ongoing, that's ever been on this planet. And I appreciate what you're doing there. And I think your names are the Falcons, right? Is it the Falcons or no?
Yeah, Fighting
Falcons. I love it. I did my homework. So, well, good luck to the Fighting Falcons of the Air Force Academy. And Sam Barber, thank you so much, Sam.
Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for your time.
Peace. This is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. We are all blood. Love to all. Thanks, Sam. We'll be back to you.
Appreciate you.
Talk soon. Peace, babe. Bye.
I just love the mission at Edwin's. My friend Brandon Krastowski at Edwin's Leadership and Restaurant Institute brings a unique approach at giving formerly incarcerated adults a foundation in the hospitality industry. What a marvelous mission. Thank you, Brandon, for bringing these wonderful people back into productive society. Every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future. Give them a try, because their food is magnificent. Their service is first rate, and Brandon is a true Cleveland light. EdwinsRestaurant.org. We love you.